As you can see, we're getting into it today. And again, the purpose of my videos is not to change your mind on anything. It's not to get you to look at the world through my lens. It's not even for me to share my biases or even my beliefs with you. The purpose of this video, as with most of my videos, is just to give you guys the facts and allow you guys to take that information and do with it as you see fit and be able to make a preparedness posture, be able to make preparedness decisions based upon the facts and based upon the actual literature that's out there. And I know that's very uncommon in this community, and I know that a lot of people don't do that. I know that we get attacked for that regularly on this channel, for not taking an emotional lens, by taking a solution-based preparedness lens, by taking a factual lens. And so I appreciate you guys for being here. And as you know, we hyper-focus on this channel, especially when it comes to food prices, commodity prices, agricultural commodities, energy commodities. And we take a look at how everyday events, whether it's geopolitical, natural, or economic, affect and shape those commodity prices, and how the geopolitics of those decisions, how they really shape our world and shape how we have to look at preparedness. So I appreciate you guys for being here. And without further ado, we have to ask ourselves, is Vladimir Putin the ultimate doomsday prepper? Let's find out.
Vladimir Putin, the Russian's president, he's passed a law that any Russian who grows or sells genetically modified foods is to be considered a terrorist. Whew. He's even giving land away to Russians who will grow food organically, non-GMO. You put his name and GMO in Google that and you'll read the spiel. He says, we Russians look across at the West, over-vaccinated, over-medicated, overfed, sitting in front of boxes every night in their lounge rooms, eating food that has no nutrients, he said, and we know it's weakening the West. Is he right? Absolutely right. Unfortunately, Monsanto is so powerful and so wealthy and so big, they win every court case where Australians want GMO to be labelled on the products. Happens in America too, it's unfortunate. So how do you know? Well, you don't, unless you buy organic. You see, if an organic farmer uses genetically modified seed, they lose their organic status. So grow as much as you can yourself. One organic tomato will give you 9 times the iron of a conventionally grown tomato. So you get much more value for your money, even though organic is more expensive.
So as it relates to GMOs, there's always going to be multiple sides of the argument. And again, the purpose of this video is not to try to change your mind or to take a stance or to express my biases when it comes to this topic of GMOs. My only purpose and point is to bring you the facts. And from a preparedness lens, this is very significant, because you have an entire country, a big country, that's taking a strong stance against GMOs. And the reason that they've stated they've taken a strong stance is because they don't want to be under the power control of the corporate entities that, regulate GMOs. And I think that there's a lot to say there. I mean, we have seen here in the United States what's happened, especially with U.S. Farmers versus Monsanto 2005, in which farmers lost in court over basically pollution of GMO farms. Essentially, pollen and seeds spilt over from the GMO farm that they were on onto their farmlands, and they were held liable. They were held criminally liable for that. And so, we see these things actually happen in real life, regardless of what your stance is, regardless if you like GMO or not. That did actually happen. You can't take that away. It did happen. So with that being said, you do have entities, Russia being one of them, that is concerned about the levying of that power. And again, I'm not here to say whether it's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is what they're factually doing. This is the response. And so from a preparedness standpoint, if I'm trying to take the raw data and look at this from just how do I prepare, it's very significant, again, to have an entire country say, not only are we banning genetically modified organisms, not only are we banning GMOs, But those that do decide that they want to participate in this type of growing and want to participate in that market, you can be held criminally liable. And there and even references made by the Russian government comparing people that utilize GMOs as terrorism, because of the effects. And even the fact that they would make that correlation shows you how much they staunchly do not support genetically modified foods. And it's also important to note, and we're going to talk about this a little later in this video, but they are big exporters in the grain industry and in agriculture. So for them to be able to take this stance and make it so staunchly is something that we should be looking at, and it's something that we should be looking at from a preparedness standpoint and be like, okay, so this is what this country is doing. We understand the why because they told us. Now how are we going to prepare? Let's get on to our next point. So let's briefly talk about Russia's energy policy. According to the World Nuclear Association, Russia is moving steadily forward with plans of expanding its role as a nuclear energy producer to include development of new reactor technology. Currently, according to the World Nuclear Association, Russia is a world leader in the fast neutron reactor technology, and it's consolidating this through breakthrough projects. We also see that Russia has expanded its green renewable energy policy and platforms, as well, as you can demonstrate in the graphs. And again, all the descriptions and sources are in the description box below. But it's very clear and it's very obvious that they are taking energy and energy concerns as a matter of economic and policy, and they're moving forward at a very rapid rate. And again, regardless of how you feel about nuclear energy, regardless of how you feel about petrol-based energy, regardless of how you feel about green renewable energy, is irrelevant, because ultimately, again, we're not talking about the morality or the ethics or if it's a good or bad idea. What I'm here to bring to you is the fact that on all sides, they are trying to maximize energy efficiency and the amount of energy they can produce. And that's coming directly from them. That's coming directly from the World Nuclear Association. That's coming from all these think tanks. So regardless of how you feel, which one's better, which one we should be geared more towards, just realize that Russia's ramping up, and that's exactly what they plan to do. And according to the experts in the industry, they're doing a good job at it. And so again, taking that information, regardless of how you feel about it from an emotional standpoint, an emotional lens, take it from a solution-based preparedness lens, from a preparedness angle. What does that mean for us? Should we be taking into consideration more energy policy within our own homesteads, within our own homes? Should we be looking to maximize energy ourselves? How can we do that on a small local level? Again, from a preparedness standpoint, it's important to look at. We do know that Russia is a big exporter of power. They're also a big exporter of petrol-based chemicals and natural gas, etc. So with all these things in mind and understanding what they're doing and what's going on as far as their energy policy goes, how can we take that information, understand it for what it is, and apply it to ourselves as far as a preparedness posture? That's the real question. Let's move on to our next. So let's talk about this Russian farming bill real quick. So yes, Russia is offering free land to both Russian citizens and foreigners. The total land that they are trying to get people to homestead and produce agricultural products on is approximately 3.9 million square miles of land. And so it's called the Homestead Act. How fitting. And the only condition for the homesteaders is they put the land to good use, and that means using it for any lawful purpose, to grow agricultural products, food, etc. And obviously, what would be considered unlawful, as we've already demonstrated earlier, is that GMO component. So again, this is Russia actively understanding that if they want to be able to produce agricultural products and produce food on a massive scale, they have to open up the playing field and allow for the vast resources, which in this case is 3.9 million square miles of land, to be put to use so that that can be done. And so they're opening up not only to Russians, but also foreigners that want a homestead. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, their reasoning and rationale behind it. So what does that tell us, again, as people that are preppers, people that are in the preparedness movement, those of us that do look at solution-based preparedness? What does that mean for us? What does that mean for you? Well, I'll let you decide that for yourself. But again, it is very significant, again, that we see an entire country switching its thought process and taking on a model that we've seen other places like Cuba, right? Where the government said, hey, every piece of arable land, grow food where you're at. And it produced tremendously great results. And now we're seeing Russia taking that template that has worked in the past and recreating that in their own country. So again, very significant, very significant. Just imagine if the US is like, hey, we want to produce as much food as possible outside of the genetically modified system, outside of, the petrochemical system, and we're going to do that by giving farmland to people that want to homestead and want to propagate that ideology and that agricultural growth. Again, just imagine the implications that would have. Well, that's currently what's happening in Russia now. So again, take those facts, look at the resources, and determine how that's going to change your overall preparedness posture. Let's move on to our next topic. Again, we're going to talk about food production a little bit, but as you can see, again, very significant. The Russians have accepted $100 million from the Chinese to start a massive rabbit breeding operation in Russia. Not only that, we see that rabbit meat production has gone up tenfold. Again, that is a significant number, and that is significant all in itself. So again, we are continuously seeing that Russia is trying to ramp up food production as much as possible, and they're trying to do it in the most efficient way that they know that they can. And we know with rabbits, you get larger yields ratio wise, for example, from a feed conversion rate, feed to overall pounds of food that you're producing. And we're seeing that not only do they recognize how important food production is, especially, with rabbits, because not only have they understood that it's important, but they are putting money into this program by actually taking away from their poultry and their swine, their pig production. So they are focusing their energy and they're reallocating sources from those pork and swine industries into the rabbit industry. And then on top of that, they're taking, you can call it a grant, a loan, a subsidy, whatever you want, from China at the tune of $100 million. Again, that's significant, and it's yielding results. Tenfold rabbit meat production. Again, understanding the significance and the role that rabbits can play, especially as a food source, is significant in and of itself, and it makes you wonder. And we're kind of gonna start to dive into some of the more of the stated policy beliefs that Russia has and policy stances that they've taken. But why is Russia trying to grow so much food? Why are they so staunchly against GMOs? Why is it they're trying to grow as much food as possible? Why are they giving free land away? Why are they increasing rabbit production? Why are they accepting this money from, from Russia to tenfold plus their rabbit meat production? Why is this all happening? And not only why is it happening, but how does that change our preparedness posture? How does it change how you look at preparedness in the future? Again, only you can answer that. Let's move on to the next one. So let's recap this. We've seen the Russians have banned GMOs. We've seen that they are increasing and trying to increase their food production as much as possible, and they are doing this different by different methods and means. One, the Homestead Act, they are actively giving free land away to Russians and foreigners alike, farmland in order to grow, homestead, and produce agricultural products, without a shadow of a doubt. We've seen increased rabbit production up to tenfold. We've seen them take huge subsidies, gratuities, loans, whatever you want to call it, money from China to the tune of $100 million to establish the biggest rabbit operation in Russia to date. We've seen their energy stance and policy in regards to increasing their nuclear energy capabilities, increasing renewable energy. And so you're looking at what they're doing, right? This is factually what they're doing. And then now we're starting to see some intention policy-wise. We're starting to see how they plan to enact this from a policy standpoint. And as you can see, they're prepared to use food as a weapon. And so we have seen the government actively come out and state that, the food security of many countries depend on our supplies. It turns out that our food supply is our secret weapon, quiet but threatening. Again, this is being put out by the Russian government. So again, it is starting to create a picture and it's starting to show what they're doing. And then now we have a clear-cut intention as far as policy-wise. And not only that, but it gives us some, if you take them at their word, then they are planning to use these resources as weapons. Again, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. All I can do is give you the facts and show you the facts and allow you guys to make your own decision. But again, significant. And so it just goes to show that everything that is being done purposefully, which is no surprise. We do things as a country purposefully. Russia does things as a country purposefully. Japan, China, Turkey, Iran, the UK, everybody does things intentionally. Even us as prepared-minded individuals in our everyday life, we prepare intentionally. So knowing this, how does that change how you are going to prepare? How does that change your current stance and posture now? Again, only you can answer that, but taking these into consideration, taking things into mind, and then looking at where we're at currently geopolitically, it's very concerning. Move on to our next. So I would be amiss if we didn't talk about ideology and strategic ideology just for a second, because we do see that as a whole society is changing. Let's take society here in the United States of America. There has been a shift in how we view masculinity, whether that's from a what's considered toxic masculinity stance, posture, the differences in how people identify themselves. We're seeing ever-changing movements within the LGBTQ plus community. So we're seeing that these roles and things are actively changing here, just in our society, just here in the United States of America, and also other first world nations. We're seeing this in the UK as well, and so we are seeing that there is an active shift, and so we know that that's happening, and it's purposefully happening. Whether you agree with it, whether you think it's right or wrong, again, it doesn't matter. We know it's happening. We can see that. We're also seeing that shift in Russia as well when it comes to masculinity. The Russian government and Putin himself, are encouraging a more masculine approach to their ideology. And so it just goes to show that the different cohorts here. I mean, we are seeing this actively happening in all sectors. We're seeing this internationally, right? So America has made their stance very, very clear. The media has made it very clear. And again, whether you agree with it or not, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. It's happening. Just like there, it's happening as well, whether you agree with it or not. And so we are seeing a shift. And so I think it's very interesting. I think it's very important to put that out there because everybody wants to say that identity politics matters, right? Especially here, whether you're for it or against it, it matters because it is changing the fabric of our society. The same is going on there, just in a different direction. So again, taking this into mind and taking this into consideration and understanding the actual significance of it, how does that change how you plan to prepare? Does that change your preparedness posture? Does it mean that you think things are going to be moving faster or slower? Again, only you can answer that. Let's move on to our last topic. So this is last, definitely not least, very significant in its own regards. But the thing we're going to talk about next, as you can see from the articles that I've put up there, the preparedness posture of Russia as a whole. And so again, we're seeing a difference in posturing, and we're seeing a difference in ideology, and we're seeing a difference in stance, both from a governmental level, from a media level, and also what the average person is doing. So we have this triangle, right? And however you want to place the different entities on the triangle, again, irrelevant, but one side is government, one side is media, and one side is what the people are actually doing. And so when we look at this, we can see that the media is encouraging people in Russia to be prepared, to make sure they have a good supply of foods and other commodities. We're seeing the government actively taking roles to increase food production, to ensure that people are, and incentivizing people to homestead, getting rid of GMO, trying to become more self-reliant as far as energy policy goes, and then taking all those steps and progressions and being prepared to use it as a weapon according to that government. And then we can see that 85% of Russians stockpiled food in 2022. So when we look at the triangle and we look at this from what is actually happening, and we're looking at it from just 100% factual based, take the emotions out of it, we're seeing that everything is perfectly in tandem as far as, what the pulse of Russia is. Again, from the governmental standpoint, more energy, more food, less GMOs, more masculinity, more shift to prepared mindedness. Take the United States, for example, you're not going to see the media say, hey, you need to embrace masculinity. Hey, you need to stockpile and prepare food. And we're not seeing governmental policies that are increasing those in any significant way. And again, I'm not saying one is right, another one's right. That's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of the video is just to bring you the factual evidence for you to make your own decision. But it's very clear the trajectory that Russia is claiming to be on and the steps that it's actively taking. So again, does this mean that Putin is the ultimate doomsday prepper? I'll let you decide, but it's definitely interesting seeing the steps and progressions that are being made, seeing the both agricultural, energy, and ideology standpoints that Russia is taking under his leadership. Again, from somebody who is in preparedness and prepared-minded, who looks at preparedness through a solution-based lens. I mean, the facts are the facts. I can't change that. And so my question to you guys is, does this change how you're going to prepare? Did you know that this was happening in Russia? What are the implications that this has moving forward? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Again, all my resources and citations and literature is in the description box for you to look at. Please tell me, what do you think? Well, as always, guys, long live the Republic.